There's a moment, partner, when this whole damn world seems to shrink down to just one decision. I was standing there, under that Arizona sun sharp as a blade, looking at two women tied up like cattle for my reward. Pritchard, that sorry bastard, was grinning like he'd just handed me a Christmas present. "They're yours, Sheriff," he said. "No one claimed 'em, so now they belong to you." I drew my knife. Folks thought I was going to do something savage, but I just cut their ropes, set them free. Then mounted my horse and rode out of Broken Mesa without saying a word. Strange thing was, they followed me. Maybe I was wrong not to explain myself. Or maybe that was the only way to show them I wasn't like those other men. What do you think, partner? Sometimes actions say everything, don't they? Now, if this story's got you curious, go ahead and hit that like button and drop a comment, letting me know where you're listening from. Texas, California, maybe some small town like Broken Mesa. This story's just getting started. That was 1887. Arizona was still wild then. Still a place where law and morals were just fuzzy concepts. I had been in this business long enough to know the world ain't divided into black and white like folks think. Too much gray, partner. Way too much. The outlaw I'd just brought in, Johnny Snake Eyes Martinez, had killed 3 ranchers, rustled cattle, vanished into those cliffs like a ghost. I tracked him through Apache Gorge, 6 days in the desert. No sleep, just instinct and a stubborn need to see it done. He was still breathing when I dragged him back, though it cost me a bruised rib and a fresh scar above my brow. But that didn't matter as much as what I saw when I walked into Broken Mesa. Emma and Clara, twin sisters, skin bronze under the sun, eyes black as midnight, but not a trace of fear in them. Tied up like animals, but standing tall as queens. Pritchard introduced them like gifts, 2 Apache girls from a trading caravan. Nobody claimed them. I looked into Emma's eyes, the older one, a bit taller, and saw something I'd lost long ago. Saw fire, saw will, saw something that even the desert couldn't burn out of her. "They'll keep you from being lonely," Pritchard said, his eyes sliding over their bodies like the worthless snake he was. I didn't say nothing, just drew my knife, cut those ropes clean, and handed the blade back to Pritchard. He stood there with his mouth hanging open. "What the hell you doing, Sheriff?" "Setting them free," I said. "Nobody belongs to... nobody." I mounted up and rode out of town. Didn't look back. Didn't explain. But I heard their footsteps, soft but steady, following behind. "Partner, you ever do something and not know why? Ever feel like some force bigger than you was guiding your hand?" I set them free, but they chose to follow me. Maybe it wasn't about freedom or bondage. Maybe it was about choice. My cabin sat 2 miles from Broken Mesa, a rough pine shack beaten by years of sun, had a barn, a hand-dug well, and quiet enough for a man to forget the things he didn't want to remember. When I got home, Emma and Clara stood near the fence. Didn't say nothing. Didn't ask permission. Just stood there, like they'd belonged to this place all along. I went inside the cabin, shut the door, made coffee, hands steady, but my mind wasn't. Why'd they follow me? I came here to bury the ghosts from Awafria, not take on new burdens. But then I looked outside, saw them sitting against the barn, wrapped in my old blankets. Emma sat straight-backed, black hair loose, eyes still watchful. Clara sat closer, clutching the blanket tight, but not cowering or shaking. They didn't run, didn't beg, just stayed. I took a plate of beans, set it on the porch step, then went back inside. Come morning, that plate was clean. That's how it started, partner. No promises, no agreements. Just small acts. I left food. They ate it. I left warm blankets. They used them. Like some silent dance where nobody taught us the steps. Some folks would say I was fooling myself, that I was just a lonely man who picked up 2 girls for selfish reasons. Maybe they're partly right. But partner, sometimes the why don't matter as much as the what. And what was happening was, we were all finding something we needed. 3 days passed like that. A natural rhythm formed. I'd cook, leave food on the porch. They'd take it, eat, return the clean plate. Nobody spoke a word. Then things started changing. Clara gathered eggs before I could get to them, left them neat by the pump. Emma mended my shirt, stitched it careful, folded it on the rail. They didn't enter the cabin. Didn't ask for more, but they were making this place into home. Partner, you know what that feels like? When you've gotten used to loneliness, then suddenly feel like somebody else cares about your life? It's warm and terrifying, all at once. Because once you get used to it, you're afraid of losing it. I watched them from a distance. Emma always alert, eyes always scanning. Like a wild animal not quite ready to trust. But the way she looked at me, not with fear, with assessment, like she was deciding whether I was worth trusting. Clara was gentler, had something soft in the way she tended the chickens, arranged things. But I could see the hurt in her eyes. The kind of hurt that only people who've been through hell carry. I didn't ask about their past, didn't ask about the trading caravan, about those ropes. I'd seen enough of this world to know what men do when nobody's watching. Some stories don't need telling. Then came the rain. That night, rain fell soft, pattering on the cabin roof, like fingers tapping. I sat by the hearth, listening to sounds from the barn, hay rustling, old crates being dragged, then silence. Something about that quiet felt wrong, heavy. I grabbed my coat, stepped into the drizzle, crossed to the barn. Emma knelt in the straw, her dress clinging wet to her back, her braid loose, strands sticking to her neck. Clara lay beside her, shivering under a blanket, lips pale, breathing quick and shallow, forehead slick with fever. "She's sick," I said. Emma nodded, her eyes tense but not avoiding mine. I went back to the cabin, gathered a basin, rags, and my last bottle of willow bark tincture. Back in the barn, I set them down, movements slow, deliberate. Emma took the rags, her fingers brushing mine, her skin warm despite the chill. She tended Clara through the night, changing cloths, giving sips of water. I sat across the barn, occasionally changing rags when the fever spiked. My breathing steady, but heavy. Clara's shivering eased by dawn, her breathing deeper. Emma leaned against a post, eyes closed, chest rising and falling slow. I looked away, jaw tight. Morning broke clear, the rain gone. Clara rested, color returning to her face. Emma stood outside, braiding her hair, watching me roll up my sleeves. I brought water, set it beside her without a word. She nodded, not thanks, but enough. Partner, there are moments that define relationships between people. Not words, not promises. Just being there when things get hard. That night, in that damp barn, we became something different. Not family yet, but no longer strangers. Arizona spring crept in, frost fading from the grass, green shoots breaking through stubborn soil. I stood by the barn, sharpening my axe, the grindstone's rhythm steady against the morning chill. Emma worked nearby, tying kindling, her dress pulling tight across her shoulders as she bent, her braids swaying, catching sunlight. Clara sat by the chicken coop, a shawl wrapped around her, cradling her swollen belly, eyes gentle but tired, humming softly to the hens following her. Weeks earlier, Emma had spoken plain. Clara was with child, conceived before they came to me, from a time of chains and shadows. I hadn't flinched, just asked what they needed. Cloth, herbs for pain. I rode to town, traded pelts for supplies, sealed the cabin tighter for what was coming. Now, as the sun rose, Clara's time was near. Emma's voice carried from the barn, calm but firm, guiding her sister. I stayed on the porch, rifle across my lap, not from fear, but habit, listening to Clara's muffled cries. The night stretched long, the fire burning low, until a small, sharp wail cut through the darkness. Emma stepped out, her dress clinging with sweat, the curve of her hips sharp in the lantern light. "Girl," she said, "strong." I entered, hat in hand. Clara lay wrapped in blankets, pale but steady, holding a swaddled infant. "Wren," she whispered later. I took the child, her weight solid, tiny fist gripping the cloth. My chest stirred, not with desire, but something deeper, rooted. She wasn't my blood, but she was mine to protect. Emma watched, eyes steady, a faint smile curving her lips, breath slow and warm. Days later, life shifted. Clara grew stronger, tending Wren with quiet care. Emma planted by the creek, hands sure. I built a new coop, left tools where Emma could find them, cooked for 3. The cabin felt full, not crowded. One evening, Emma handed me a mended coat, her fingers brushing mine, her gaze holding mine, bold but soft. "We're staying," she said. I nodded. "Good." Partner. Maybe it wasn't love like in fairy tales. Maybe it was just survival. 3 wounded souls finding peace in each other. But when those stars burned bright overhead, and the ghosts from Awafria finally stayed quiet, I knew we'd built something worth having. A family. Not the traditional kind, but family all the same. That's the story, partner. No perfect ending. No happily ever after, like in the books. Just 3 people who found each other in an unforgiving world and decided that together was stronger than alone. I don't know if I did right or wrong. Maybe I was just a lonely man who couldn't stand the silence anymore. Maybe Emma and Clara only stayed because they had nowhere else to go. But in those evenings when I watched Emma rock Wren to sleep, when Clara laughed with the chickens, when the last light of day painted our little cabin gold, I think maybe the why don't matter. What matters is we chose each other. Every day, in the silence, in the storms, in the peaceful moments and the hard times. The desert's still harsh, the world's still unfair, and men like Pritchard still exist. But in that little cabin, 2 miles from Broken Mesa, we created something that even the desert couldn't burn out. Hope. If you liked this story, leave me a like, partner, and comment and tell me, in a world with no clear law, what would you do? I want to hear your thoughts. Stories like this only matter when we share them. Until we meet again, partner. The trail's long, and there's more stories to tell.